Welcome to the Making of Me podcast. Today's guest is Dr. Karoline Fischer, MD on ROTT, hypnotherapist and emotional healer. Her journey reflects a powerful truth that when the student is ready, the right path appears. Through working with the subconscious, Karoline help people unlock deep healing and lasting transformation. It's really a pleasure to have you on the show, Karoline.
Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to be here
Yeah,
and
thank
to
you.
be talking about the work I do because it's very fascinating to me. And I've
Yeah,
had a deep passion for my work and it just grows every day.
wow, amazing. So, Dr. Caroline, what moments made you realize that traditional methods were not enough for your own healing?
Wow. I mean, I don't think there was one moment, but there was like a process, a path where I just found more truth or a lot of truth of the pieces that I want to say are missing somehow in traditional medicine, found outside of that. And then I just, lived that parallel, I think, and at the same time. And then when I found RTT hypnotherapy and I kind of like reinvented myself at that point. I realized I could give so much more with RTT hypnotherapy to clients, to people that want healing than I ever could have done as a medical doctor, me personally, right? So many doctors out there that are amazing doctors exactly in the specialty that they chose, but I saw I can give most when I am doing RTT hypnotherapy with clients.
Wow.
So there was not one point. There were many, it just came together. And at one point, it was
Yeah,
at the
yeah.
point where I said, okay, that's what I want to do.
Wow, amazing, amazing, amazing. Thanks for sharing that. And also, how did working with the subconscious change your own personal transformation?
Well, the thing is, right, when we work with the subconscious, it's really accessing a part that we usually don't have available to us in our day to day or even in regular talk therapy. Again, I think regular talk therapy is amazing, but it has its limits, right? And so in our regular life, we have access to our conscious, right? Our mental state, our brain, and that's amazing. But in the subconscious, we have all those emotional patterns stored, all the patterns that drive us every day, all the patterns that are so much stronger than any intellectual pattern, right? Because that's why there is road rage. That's why there's wars, right? Because from an intellectual point, I know, okay, it's not gonna make a difference if I'm with the car 1 minute faster, right? If I'm just going to let that other car go. It's probably 1-2 minutes that I'm going to be home later. But on an emotional level, it might trigger in me, oh my God, again, it's not me that goes first. Again, I'm left behind, right? I mean, for example, it could also trigger something else, but there's something emotionally that will always win. Right? Our emotional charge will always win. That's why sometimes, and I'm sure every person has been in those shoes where somebody says something to us or somebody does something, and all of a sudden we are out of control. It's almost like we are in a time machine and we are going back to a time where we were smaller and we react out of there and we feel like little kids and we feel out of control and we feel small and we feel hurt and we feel something super big sweeping over us and we are not in control anymore. And what we do is we work with exactly that subconscious, right? And so we access that and we see why is there still so much emotional charge here, right? Because even if you had a terrible childhood, right? Even if somebody had really big traumas in their childhood, they have survived it. Otherwise, they wouldn't be here right now, right? So the only thing that they are suffering on now is what did that happened to you make you believe about yourself on a deeper level? And when we transform that, right, we let that client say everything they really felt in that situation, because often it's really the overwhelm that makes the trauma. Like a thing that happens to us is overwhelming and we don't know what to do with it. No caregiver is here to hold space for it. And then we carry it on. If somebody is there immediately, even if the worst happens to us, and somebody is there and says, oh, you must feel so sad now, or you must feel so angry now. Let's just express it. I'm here for you. We're going to hold all that anger and all that sadness, and you can cry every day. I'm here, right? then usually it doesn't even get to that, right? It's checked off in a way. It's a narrative where I'm like, oh, this happened to me, but I don't suffer from it anymore now. But if that isn't there, if the adults around me might also be overwhelmed by certain things, right? Or they just don't have the capacity, then I'll carry it with me.
Amazing you share, especially when people are going through trauma, of the fact that when they have a caregiver who is there to listen to them and who is there to validate them that particular moment, just by talking, actually more like onboarding a whole lot of this particular trauma compared to when they keep it to themselves all day long. And it's really amazing. Many people actually misunderstood hypnotherapy. What is it really about?
Yeah, I like that question a lot because you're right. Not a lot of people know about it, right? What I actually knew about hypnotherapy before I learned about it and before I really experienced it on my own by myself, right? I went into hypnotherapy as a client. I thought, I had these pictures in my mind where hypnosis was used for entertainment purposes, where people get on stage and the hypnotist, gets them into their subconscious, but their consciousness is also knocked out and they start barking like a dog or they do some things and then they are back and they don't remember anything they did, right? So that's what I knew about it. But that's not what it is for therapeutic purposes, right? Because when we use it for therapeutic purposes, we have an oath, right? We want to help the client. We don't want to use it for entertainment purposes, of course, right? So the consciousness is still on. So our client really is aware of what's happening when we go into the subconscious, but it's just that the subconscious is accessed and it's worked with the subconscious. But the consciousness is here, like the client remembers everything that happens, right? So when we go into the body, when we go into the nervous system of the body, where that subconscious is speaking from, right? That intelligence of the body. So yeah, it's basically, so to come back to your question, because that was a little excursion, is really what it is a deep relaxation. It's not more than that, right? A lot of people, like you said, think it's something so out of the ordinary, right? But it's actually that a deep relaxation in us where we're really present in our bodies and
Wow.
we really,
Yeah,
So that's
amazing.
really
Yeah,
it.
amazing. So why is subconscious powerful in healing traumas and emotional?
Because it's all stored there, right? What it meant. So everything we suppress, right? Like I said before, if we have someone immediately that we can work with and that holds space for us for everything that happens, then we won't even carry a trauma with us, right? But if nobody is there or not enough, we don't get enough help with it, then it stores somewhere. We need to suppress it. Because if we can't deal with it, we need to do something with it as a child, right? And that's a very smart thing. We need to cope. So cope, survive. We either going to suppress it, we're going to dissociate, we're going to rationalize it, we're going to, there are many coping mechanisms. So we are basically, the work with the subconscious is basically getting us out of those coping strategies and looking at it again, right? Because the coping strategies, of course, also take so much energy. Right. And it also shows that it hasn't been worked through yet in the depth that our consciousness, our subconscious needed it for us to be able to move on in our lives. So that's why it's so powerful, because once we transform that, once we heal that, right? And then we can transform it. Once we speak out loud, words are so powerful. We all know that, right? Once we speak out loud what we really thought in that moment, what we couldn't say at the moment, right? If something terrible happens to me and when I say, oh, I just fell and I hurt myself, and that's a small example, right? I hurt myself on the knee and I'm crying, and my parents or my caregivers say, oh, it's not so bad, you're not even bleeding, right? What that says to me is, I feel it's hurting me, I feel it's big for me, but my caregivers say it's not. So I'm in a conflict, right?
Yeah.
And I will probably dissociate and say, okay, they must be right. They are the smart ones. They are the older ones. So I guess maybe I'm too sensitive that I'm feeling so much when they say it shouldn't hurt because I'm not bleeding, right? So I talk myself out of it. And what we do then in the sessions is really, the scenes will come up automatically. Whatever scene is important for whatever blocks you from achieving what you came into the session with. And then when that scene, for example, comes up that I just fictionally created, then we would let that 5-year-old or that 7-year-old say, this is really hurting me. Even if it doesn't bleed, it's freaking hurting me. And you express that, and by that already, by standing up for that, you are basically internalizing your own narrative of your life and not the perspective of the others, right?
Yeah.
Very often when it comes to perspective, right? And we a lot of people deal with that when they are older, right? The perspective, like when we are young and our parents, for example, again, our caregivers tell us we are stubborn. So many clients come in, oh, well, I'm stubborn. My parents told me I'm stubborn. I'm like, you know, are you really stubborn, or were you just not of the same
Yeah.
opinion that they were, and they wanted you to be the same opinion because that's what they wanted, because their parents wanted that, or whatever, why ever they wanted that, right? Because often we are called stubborn because we don't oblige, or we don't agree, and we don't obey to someone else that thinks whatever they say needs to be the truth, right? Even if it's only an opinion.
Yeah.
So really, it helps you owning your own narrative, really owning your own perspective, but in a
Yeah.
real way, right? Because I'm not saying we are talking each other in illusions and delusions here. Own what is real, and what is in the body is real. There's no doubt, right? I
Yeah.
mean, with our mind, that's
Yeah.
the beauty. We can create fiction. We can have so much fantasy, and that's important for so many, for our lives in general. But of course, there are even, big area of jobs, of industries is dedicated to that, and with good reason. But in the body, it's really like, what is real? Like whatever the body remembers, right, is real. It's not in our mind. We can lie
Yeah.
to ourselves. We can exaggerate something. We can put it down. We can rationalize it. But our body really tells us the truth. And our
Yeah.
body remembers everything we experienced.
Yeah, amazing, amazing. Thank you so much, Dr. Caroline, for the explanation. So, what pattern do you see most often in clients dealing with anxiety or childhood trauma?
So with anxiety, I mean, what pattern? I don't know if there's one only. Anxiety is usually something where some balance is disturbed, right? Where you can just be in the present moment, and then there is no anxiety if you can be, right? But if there is something like you're doing it wrong, right? We need to be there already if we are only there. Oh, you should do that already. Why did you, right? That triggers, oh, I'm not enough. So you get anxiety because you want to be something else or someone else that you are not, right? And we can obviously always push to be better than we are. But I think I would claim nobody ever did somebody get better by telling them, you suck. You need to get better otherwise, right? You should be there already. You should know that already. So but those often, right, that feeling of I'm not enough, I'm not good enough, I'm not doing that good enough can create anxiety, because that also communicates, well, maybe being loved is depending on that, right? Even if it's not true, it could be communicated like that. It could be understood like that. And that creates anxiety. I mean, that's just the first that comes up, right? There are many reasons anxiety could come up, right? Could also be one event where there was a breakthrough, a burglary in an apartment, right? And you come home with your mother and you see all that, and you just feel you don't feel safe anymore in your space, right? That can also cause anxiety, right? So there are many reasons, but often it's really because you asked for a pattern. Often it's that pattern, I'm not good enough, I'm not enough. So what do I need to do? Because then the machine is always on. Well, if I'm not good enough, then I always need to prove myself. Then I always need to be better, right? Then I always need to, right?
Yeah, amazing. Always needing to not feel comfortable in your own skin and in the
Exactly.
person you are at that particular moment. Yeah, there's a whole lot. Can you share a moment when a client's breakthrough deeply impacted you?
Oh, yeah. So honestly, a lot of breakthroughs often or always actually impact me. But sometimes I'm definitely impacted to the point where I'm going to start to cry. I have never experienced where I'm not able to professionally work anymore. I am, right? It definitely impacts me in my body because I'm going into that state too, right? Where I will be so touched by what they experience. And also, I mean, usually the impact or the breakthrough happens when a client really lets themselves feel what they didn't allow themselves to feel when they were younger, and they didn't get the space, right? When a client trusts me so much that they really go in, because all those younger selves we still have in us, right? The 5-year-old, the 7-year-old, they are all in us. But if they're not healed, they're going to be reactive. So if there's a scene coming up and I have a client and it's a overwhelming scene, a traumatic scene. Usually those scenes come up. For them to trust me enough to really commit to that and to really go in and feel that and then express that and and say how they feel and let all that sadness, anger out. That's so impacting because it changes the trajectory of their lives, right? Because that has been in them for so long. So that changes the entire energy. That changes everything. So I honestly think it happens so often that it really it always impacts me really because it's such a transformation. But of course, the more the client can go in and the more the client can let go and trust me, the more impact there is also on me. The more impact the client feels, the more impact I feel.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you, Dr. Caroline. So for someone feeling stuck, how do they know they are finally ready for transformation?
That's such a good question too. I think you feel it. I often get clients that say, I'm kind of their last resort because they tried other things. Because usually you would probably go to a regular therapist first and try, I don't know, psychiatrist, medication first, or with some people, right? Some people are more open and they would try hypnotherapy faster in their journey. But I think it's really, sorry, I think it's really when you know it. I mean, I'm thinking now, yeah, if you can't trust your intuition yet, then it might be a little harder. But somewhere you need to definitely go and say, okay, I want to do that, right? Because you need to be open. So yeah, I think it's really a knowing in yourself, right? When you really either people are so stuck that they really feel like I can't go on any day longer. I need a change, right?
Yeah, amazing,
Or
amazing.
they're just so frustrated because sometimes I have people come that want to send their partner or their children. And I always say, yeah, I mean, I'm happy to have them, right? But they need to be ready. So it really
Mm,
needs to come in person, right? I mean, if you want to send someone, that won't work if they don't want that. Because no kind of therapy can be done well and professionally if the client doesn't want to, but you can't do hypnotherapy, right? If you're only half open, you really need to trust, you need to be open to it because you need to go into that state. And I can't go for you, I can't do it for you, I can only guide you. You as the client actually do the work.
yeah, amazing. Thank you so much, Dr. Caroline, for a whole lot of insight in respect of hypnotherapy and the fact that things can only be done once the client is actually ready. Being that yes, once the student show up, the teacher. Once the student is ready, the teacher will always show up. It just pivoted to that particular one.
That's exactly that. Yeah, that's perfectly fitting. Yeah. Once the student is ready, the teacher arrives. Yeah, like they need to be ready, but then, the transformation is unstoppable or it like can be super big. Yeah, there's no
Yeah,
limits then.
yeah, amazing. So, Dr. Caroline, how can my audience reach out to you? How can they connect with you? And how can they reach out? And where's the best platform to do this?
So really honestly, through any of my social media platforms, but I have a website that's pretty catchy, I think. So that's www.whyhypnotherapy.com. So hypnotherapy.com. And that's the best way. That's my website. But if you Google my name, you can also find my Google business site and my website and everything will pop up too.
Yeah, thank you so much. Dr. Caroline, your story reminds us that healing begins when the awareness meets readiness. By walking beneath the surface, real and lasting change becomes possible. Yeah, thank you once again for being in the show, The Making of Me. And it's really a pleasure sharing your insight and stories in respect of this. And thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It was such a pleasure talking to you.
Yeah, thank you.